Hey everybody, this is your boy John, and on today's episode of Geeks From The Multiverse, we're going to be talking about RoboCop and everything, of course, all RoboCop. So we're talking old, we're talking new, we're talking everything in between. The movies, the video games, all that fun stuff. So stay tuned.
We're geeks from the multiverse. We've come to unite all geeks. Now it's time to get geeky and dive right in, 'cause we're geeks from the multiverse.
Hey everybody, again, this is your boy John, and with me as always is Matt, aka Grumpy Beard, and yes, aka Captain Lustache.
What's up, everybody?
So yes, I know, RoboCop. So I'm going to admit to you something, Matt. I actually haven't really watched a whole lot of RoboCop. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just going to throw it out there. Yes, it's not like I didn't want to. It's just, I don't know. I'm not saying that it wasn't a vibe or a hype, but,
I've been watching the shit out of RoboCop.
I know you've been watching the shit out of RoboCop, okay? I know you just said you were watching the 90s version.
I was watching the TV series, which is...
And you know what? And I'm proud of you.
It's, for a 90s show, it's good, but for 2025, it's
probably shitty. It's very sucky.
Not good, yeah.
You know what? I'll admit it. You know what I was watching the other day? I was watching a little bit of Power Rangers, the original, and I've been watching just kind of random shit. It's not like I don't want to watch some of this stuff, but it's just one of those things, like for me, like, I was thinking about it today, right? So yes, actually, I'm going to say a little quick news for Matt. Ready? He's finally, and I'm going to say he finally got a PS5 thanks to his family, because you know why? I'm glad that he finally got one. Yes, I know that Danielle and Rachel and all of her sisters, and I think her mom too, right, chipped in to help with this situation, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's good, and like I said, it's about damn time because now I can finally play with you, and I can, we can finally do stuff again, without you having to feel like you can't.
I have definitely leveled up.
He's leveled up, boys and girls.
Leveled up.
And, I'm glad because now we can finally start playing some games. And I know he's been not wanting to be on because, there's just some games that he hasn't been able to play.
I've had the PS4 blues for a long time.
He's had the PS4 blues. No. No. So the thing is, and this is the way I'm going to say it, right? So, there are things that Matt does and there's things that I do. That there's things that I like and his things are going to be, I can't even speak. There's things that he likes as well that, right, I'm not going to particularly like. So this is probably just one of those times that I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying that I don't or do, but again, I'm willing to learn more about RoboCop and things like that. I think I've just never took the time to hey, I'm just going to go watch RoboCop real quick, and I'm just going to dive right into all the shit as well. Because if you look at all the fucking Star Trek shit we just talked about last week, there's a lot.
There's a lot. I think there's a lot less with RoboCop.
Oh, yes.
But I think before we get to there, check out our YouTube page. Give us a fist bump.
Hold on. Follow, interact, subscribe, and tell your friends.
There you go.
Look at that. Matt's like, finally, you friggin' jerk for finally doing that, right? And then, yes, you know what? I'm going to let him say this because, you know what? I'm a little surprised that he decided to do one more than what he's originally done.
Yeah, so I do, like we said last week, my album is on Spotify. It's also on Apple, Amazon, and iHeart Media, which...
it used to be radio, I guess? Or
iHeartRadio. Yeah, it's iHeart Media, I believe, right now.
Yeah,
whatever. And then something called Deezer, which I believe is in France.
Deezer?
I don't know, yeah.
I've never heard of Deezer at all.
I got an email from DistroKid saying, AI Shit Show is now on Deezer. And I'm like, what the hell is Deezer? I've never heard of that.
Deezer?
So I looked it up and it was like, oh, Deezer mainly is an app that's popular in France.
Oh, well, good for you. Well, apparently the French people love to see AI Shit Show, motherfucker.
Anyways. It's all over the place. Last week we played the preview of the title track that's on there. It's not GFY. It's actually AI Shit Show.
So I will say this. So, yes, I told Matt recently that, yes, I have been playing the shit out of GFY. Okay. To me, I'm not trying to be biased here.
Well, there are two tracks that are the most popular on that album, which is, AI Shit Show is the literal name of the album, so it's the title track, but, GFY is the single from the album.
It's the lead single, right? So that one, I was thinking that it was going to get them more hype. You know what I mean?
I mean, right now it has, because it's up over 250.
I mean,
as far as plays
I wonder why, Matt. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, it's also been out for probably a month or two before the album came out.
I know, but look, my point is with that song. I mean, hopefully, that's the one that probably will get the more. I would. No, I don't know. I mean, maybe the other ones will too. But I think GFY. If it's me out of them all, I would say it's probably one of your better ones out of them all. I'm not just trying to be biased here.
I'm a little biased. I like them all, but there are some that I like better than others. And AI Shit Show is one that out of all of them, I really do like. I mean, I like GFY, but I like AI Shit Show just as much, probably a little bit more.
See, I'm surprised because GFY to me it was just kind of funny because it was always our joke. Are always like inside of like everything. I mean, hell, we had our, like Call of Duty, we had like a little gamer tag, or the clan tag was always GFY or GFO or, whatever. GF, like it could be literally anything. GF, whatever.
I don't know. I think I like the wittiness behind it. Like, but I like the glitchiness. I like the, I don't know. I like that whole glitchiness behind it. I think that's kind of just what makes it.
I don't know. I get it. Again, you're going to be biased to your own album. It's fine. Not a big deal. But anyways, yes, the point is go check him out. Go do that. I mean, he's got some stuff in the works for later on. I'm not going to say what, because that's on him if he wants to tell you anything. But, we'll see. And hell, maybe Matt, maybe just throwing it out there, maybe we could do a song together.
We could. I mean, it is AI, so I mean, it is trickier that way. But
well, I mean, it is trickier that way. But I mean,
it's not like we're singing a country song together,
Hey, no, I'm sorry. You're like, whoa.
Nobody wants that.
I mean, you say that, but what? Fuck it, I'm gonna do it then. Hey, good looking. I mean, wait, that's another song. Just kidding. Anyway, let's go back to RoboCop. That's a real subject here.
I do think RoboCop is one of those. It's not really a franchise. I mean, you can say the TV series kind of makes it a franchise. It does have 3 movies. It sort of almost is a franchise, but it's sort of almost not, because the 3rd movie kind of sucks, and the 2nd movie sucks a little less. you know what I mean? Like, and the 1987 movie is, to me, it's one of those iconic movies where, even though, like, yes, it's rated R, it has really like over the top violence. The brutality and the gore are just way over the top, but certain aspects of that movie are just so like satirical and funny. It's really like kind of a unique movie to me, because it has its funny moments, and it's got its like really gory, violent moments as well. Mm-hmm. But I think with the character RoboCop, you really have to look like deeper into the character to really like understand like what's going on with the character itself. It's not like other, synthetic or cyborg characters. Like, you can watch the Terminator and instantly know like what's going on. Like, he's a robot, a future cyborg killer, like assassin, basically. With RoboCop, like, you kind of have to like look beyond the outside and see kind of like what's happening inside.
Makes sense.
Because it is kind of different, but the movie itself is rated R. But I think like what made it different was all of like these random commercials that were inside this movie. You've seen this movie, I'm hoping.
I told you, man. I didn't really see a whole lot. I know. I told you. I'm. This is the one time I'm gonna let you down, buddy. Because guess what? There are things that you haven't seen that I would be like, oh boy, I know you haven't seen them. Yeah, I really haven't.
So yeah, within the movie, like there's all these random like OCP consumer product commercials. So OCP is basically Omni Consumer Products. That's what OCP stands for. And within the movie, you get these OCP commercials, like legitimate commercials for this fake company in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is almost like, please tell me you've seen Starship Troopers.
Of course I've seen Starship Troopers.
So that's where they get this from, is from RoboCop, because it's very, very similar to that.
Oh. Okay.
Where it's just nonsense, products that, OCP makes. But they also have like these news updates, which is what we were talking about before we started recording, which, give us 3 minutes, we'll give you the world. And then, they'll talk about, some terrorist thing happening in Mexico, and then they'll turn it around, like right as soon as they go, terrorist, executed, 19 militia members. And then the next person, the lady that's sitting next to him would be like, OCP, cops in Detroit rescued a dog. In the same, like, it's almost in the same breath, and they'll be like, oh, they rescued a dog in downtown Detroit. It's like, you guys just went from like a horrific story, to like rescuing a dog, and like the video or the pictures that they're showing are all these kids like hugging the dog, and it's like all nice, and like they literally leave that news feed with them like all like smiling, like it's like, you're like, wait, you just like talked about them murdering, and like they're showing the clips of them like shooting and executing all of these people to them rescuing some dog, and then they're like, have a good night.
And you're like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah. And then there's this like TV show that they show pretty much throughout the movie. And they actually filmed more of this show than they actually showed in the movie.
Interesting.
But they like actually like filmed kind of this fake TV show called It's Not My Problem.
Of course.
But it's this like weird guy just doing weird goofy shit, like with half naked women. And he would always say like, I'd buy that for $1, and
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah. I mean, one of the scenes like in the show, it was like these two women, and like one of them came out with a cake, and the cake was actually like boobs, and
of course it was.
She's showing him the cake, and, he's like, oh, I'd like to get my face in there, and of course, like, she puts the cake right in his face, and like, he's eating it up, and he's like, oh, I buy that for $1. And like, everybody's, that's watching is laughing and stuff. But the whole point behind like all of these things, like, it's quirky, it's stupid, it's weird, and it's just not something you see in a movie.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like, and especially not like in a movie that's rated R, that has like the violence that RoboCop had, the brutality and the gore that RoboCop had. I mean, you take the movie and you take like what happened to like the lead character. I mean, he gets his hand shot off and then proceeds to basically get unloaded from shotguns and Uzis. And then Clarence Boddicker, who is like the main, this main gang member, who leads this gang, basically executes him from point blank range with this, huge pistol right in the head. You're talking way over the top gore. So, it's just one of those movies. I think it's like so iconic and so over the top that for 1987, you're not going to find like a movie quite like it.
Well, so here's the thing that, even though, yes, I can't have a full on opinion about it. I mean, when you're talking about 80s and 90s, style of movies, even if it's rated R or even PG-13, because I feel like whether it's PG-13, rated R, whatever, I mean, they can have just a similar vibe, where, when you see a PG-13, you think, okay, well, I can't see certain things, but back in that time frame, it was almost like you were watching a rated R film sometimes, because some of that shit you could see.
Yeah, I mean, for RoboCop, they actually had more scene like on. If you go to Prime, like you can actually there is an actual documentary that you can watch. I believe it's called RoboDoc, is what it's called. But there is an actual documentary that you can watch. I actually did watch it, by the way.
Of course you did.
But they're actually talking about that they actually filmed the way that they actually filmed most of the scenes. The actual like studios were coming back and saying like, we can't actually show most of this movie because of the way that you shot most of it. So you have to take, and they showed them like, you have to take some of this out and some of this out and some, and it was most of the movie.
Well,
and they're like, well, we can't take this out. We can't take that. You know what I mean? It was like, that's like half the movie. Like, come on.
I guess this is going to sound a little weird for me saying this right now, but like, I literally just watched a movie today. It was, damn it, I can't remember the exact title, but it was basically, I think you might have seen it, but it was Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. It was like, I think it was like when, you know what, keep talking. I guarantee you, just let me get my train of thought here.
So I will go into the setting of RoboCop. Since, this will probably help you with what the gist of the movie is about. So the setting of RoboCop is in a near distant or near future dystopia, and Detroit is on the brink of a social and financial collapse. It's overwhelmed by crime and dwindling resources. So the city of Detroit grants OCP, which I already said was Omni Consumer Products. They're a mega corporation. They have products ranging from consumer products to military weaponry to private space travel, et cetera, et cetera. They grant this OCP control of the Detroit Police Department. So basically, like OCP is this mega corporation, and instantly when I just say that, what does that remind you of? And what other corporation does that remind you of?
Are you talking about more like Terminator?
No,
I'm talking about more like
just OCP being that mega corporation that makes consumer products.
I mean, if we're talking about from earlier, then I would have said like The Matrix or something like that. But see, that I'm wrong.
Well, think video game.
Corporation. Are you talking about like Resident Evil?
That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Like the umbrella?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well.
Okay. Obviously, Umbrella Corporation was far more evil than, than OCP. OCP wants to basically privatize everything. Not for, evil or nefarious reasons, but they want power, they want money, and they want to control everything. And the Detroit police are now considered like a private police force under OCP. So OCP basically controls the police force. It's not controlled by the city. And that's kind of where the start of the movie is basically there's a Detroit, I believe, south, and then there's a west.
So why not north and south and
I don't
east
know.
and west?
They're not part of the movie.
Okay.
I'm sure there is a north and an east.
So I know and it's going to sound a little weird, me jumping back and forth here, but so the movie I was trying to figure out, and I finally figured it out, was See No Evil, Hear No Evil. It was the rich, I'm assuming you've seen it?
I've seen it a long time ago, but I've seen it.
No, I saw it today, and I was like, oh, damn. I'm talking about, like, the reason why I was only bringing it up real quick is, like, when you were talking about, like, the raunchiness of how this movie, they couldn't use half this movie because of everything that was going on. Just seeing this movie, granted, I know it's with two, like, comedy legends here, but, like, every other word was fuck. Every other word was this and that, and then you'd see tits. Like full-on tits out of a shower, and you're like, "Oh shit, okay, I didn't expect that." But you see what I'm saying? Like when you're looking at like the 80s and the 90s and that vibe, like I'm surprised they wouldn't have allowed like some of that, like the actual footage of it to be shown.
Because I think it was the way,
or was it the way it was portrayed?
I think it was the way that it was shown on screen, or the way that it was filmed, or the way that it was portrayed. Definitely the actor that portrayed Clarence Boddicker, I think he pretty much says fuck in the whole, like every other line, there's a fuck in what he says. But I think it's just the way that, I mean, it's the way that they shot certain things. Like definitely the Alex Murphy death scene, the way that they shot it, and like when he goes in for that death kill, they shot it with him, walking up and actually point blank shooting him, and the whole body falling to the ground. But I believe the final cut of the movie, he just points the gun, shoots, and then you just see him falling to, you just see kind of his head going to the ground. You don't see like, I think in the original version, like you saw the blood spurting out and like the,
oh geez,
because they used like a dummy. So like,
well, I mean, it almost just. It's just like
it was a little bit more gruesome in the way that they shot it, and you see the whole body falling to the ground, and
I was almost going to say it was almost like the Alien movie, like the very very early one where the alien's coming out of the stomach and like you see all the blood coming out everywhere. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I didn't realize how gory one film could be, that it wasn't that you could do that. But anyways.
So, continuing on. So, OCP does start the Ed 209 project, and it's a failure. Ed 209 is the Enforcement Droid 209. It's a heavily armored robot. It sports two twin cannons on the left and right sides, a large oblong visor, much like a cockpit, even though it doesn't have anybody piloting it inside. Legs with backward-facing knees. In the movie, it failed the boardroom test to disarm a armed board member, shooting him to death instead. And often in the movie and in the games, or even in the TV show, I think even in the newer movie, it's often kind of seen like as a kind of a clumsy, kind of a bot. He's kind of seen clumsy. He can't walk down steps due to like the large feet. It has like these like wing kind of feet, like they're like 3-prong toes.
Oh, so
on the feet.
Like kind of like duck webbing, and like, you know what I mean? Like maybe not quite like that, but like
it's kind of like a 3-prong, like like kind of like a chicken foot, but they're like big.
Yeah.
So when he's walking down the stairs, like it can't quite manage the stair.
Oh, of course.
So
it just basically would just go, whoa, just fall over. Okay.
So with the failure of Ed 209, which was their military enforcement droid program, they start RoboCop. Alex Murphy was a cop over at Metro West. Metro West was kind of their, I would want to say they're rich.
Richer neighborhood.
They're richer neighborhood, so the cops didn't
do much.
As they say in the movie, they don't work for a living.
That's why I said do much, yeah.
So when he comes over to Metro South,
he's actually got to work for a living.
That's where he gets told, like, "Hey, Murphy, we work for a living down here," and gets handed the body armor, and but instantly, they get on the case with Clarence Boddicker's gang, and they go right after him, and because I believe they just robbed a bank. So they go chasing after him, and then that's when, we actually just meet him right at the start, like right at the start of the movie. You know what I mean? So that it's really like you don't really get a whole lot of chance to know who he is.
Okay.
So it's one of those kind of funny things. Like you do almost start to like him in the little time that you see the human part of Alex Murphy. But you do know, like, if you've seen the movie and you know about RoboCop, like you already know, like, this dude's just gonna die a pretty gruesome death.
Well, I mean, it's not like, even though I haven't seen it, I mean, it's not like I don't understand that. Yes, I know he gets murdered. It basically comes back to life because yes, there's this program, this RoboCop program, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he gets rebuilt in the sense of like, yes, he's I guess he's what? A certain percentage of human, but then mostly a humanoid or like a droid?
Yeah. I believe in the movie, it's like his brain, the spinal.
Yeah, the spinal cord, the brain.
I believe it was like part of the lungs. I don't think it was anything else other than that. I believe it was like
somewhat of his face, or is that
initially they had said like, oh, they saved the arm, and then they were kind of like, well, why'd you save the arm? Like, get rid of it.
Yeah,
they're like, we don't need the arm. Get rid of it. So I believe it was just kind of like internal stuff because
like not even his like bottom half of his face, like from basically his lips down, like none of that is saved.
No, I mean basically it's like his face was stretched over like metal.
Okay, so like, so really it's his bottom half where he has his lips that I thought, right? In his chin and his stuff like that. That is his, I guess.
He has his whole face. Like from all the way up here, all the way around.
Well, so I thought he didn't have his face. I thought it was just like, or have most of his face because
he has his whole face.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No, he has his whole face. But the problem is like, he doesn't really have anything underneath the face. It's like, it's robotic underneath.
Right.
But he still has like the human brain and like the stem and some human organics inside. In the 1987 movie, they were making this like baby food stuff that he still had to like
eat.
I don't know how he ate it. Maybe they fed it through tubes, I'm assuming.
I mean, I don't know either.
But they had to feed like the internal organics.
Because he wasn't a full-on robot in a sense.
Because he still had human components inside the metal, outside components. But yeah, he was officially part human, part machine. And initially, yes, they did remove the memories. But this is where with the character of RoboCop, like you have to look deeper because at one point in the movie, his memories do end up returning. And then this is kind of where like, it's kind of like the ghost in the shell or the ghost in the machine, right? Like that human spirit never quite leaves.
Well, it almost sounds like Spawn a little bit too, with his little tragedy and his dealings that he finally has to get over.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the soul never quite left.
Right.
And the human part of who RoboCop was, Murphy, wakes up.
Okay.
And at one point, yes, he is just RoboCop. And then when he wakes up, you see it. Like, he becomes Murphy. And he's kind of driven by that. Like, I have to find out, like, who these people are. I have to find them. And it's funny, like, I was just talking to you outside before, like, when I first got here. And whenever, even in the TV show, he does this all the time. Because in the TV show, like he always runs into his wife and his kid every episode. And as soon as like he sees them or he has like a run-in with them, he always does this thing where he's like, I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening. Like he does it all the time. Like he turns around and he just starts walking away.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
Like he does it every single time. He's like, somewhere there is a crime happening. And he just kind of walks off. So it is kind of funny, but yeah, somewhere in the movie, you can kind of see like it is kind of like that ghost in the machine. Like he wakes up and he becomes Murphy, and he realizes like I was a person. And when you realize that, the movie actually becomes really kind of tragic. And this is kind of where, for me, like the movie becomes more than just this weird 80s cult movie. It becomes something more because when you're watching him and he's like, the house that he used to live with his wife and his kid, now it's like just a showroom house. And he's walking around as RoboCop. And as he's walking around the different rooms, they're all empty. And there's these weird video screens with the guy he's explaining like, in this room you have, he's completely ignoring them because like he can see like visions of his wife and like the past, basically like his memories. he walks into the living room and you can see his kid watching, and I forget what the show was, but it was like some outlaw show where the guy's like doing the I don't even know what it's called when you're doing like the flips with the gun on your finger,
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't know the exact name, but I mean, I guess like, never mind. I know what you're talking about. I don't know the exact term
like,
for it, but
he's like kind of doing the
flip gun.
Yeah, he's like doing the flips, making the gun, flip
twirl. I would say twirl around on your finger, but yeah.
And the guy on the show is doing that, and his son turns around and goes, "Can you do that, Dad? Can you do that?" So he's like walking around the house, and like as he's walking through the house, his movements are getting like faster and faster, and the guy's like on the video screen is like, how do you like, and eventually he just like punches the screen, the screen because he's like kind of like at the point of like being overwhelmed by the memories. And he goes back to the police station and he like looks up the people that were, but it's you see the moment when he's like finally like awoken.
Yeah.
And he's Murphy again. And it's a cool moment.
No, I mean, I guess I would, I'm going to say it, Matt, because, I think the problem is like, see, at least I'm going to admit this because I feel like you would never admit this. I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to watch RoboCop because I feel like, it's one of those series that you definitely get behind. I mean, granted, I know it's, again, if you're watching, whether it's the 87, movie or even later, and then, the series or even the newer reboot of the said movie, right? I'm not saying I would ever not give this a shot. I think it would be a really cool kind of like, movie to get into and be able to do all that. But again, talking about different generations here,
I get it. I get it.
And I mean, I understand, you growing up,
it is a 1987 movie and I do get it.
Like but not everybody's going to be.
I think you do have to come at it from a different perspective and not see the movie for what it looks like.
No, like I said, I would do it.
Take the movie for how kind of like we're coming at it right now.
No, I mean, and like I said, I think I would give it a shot. Just, and you know what the weird part is like, this is where I was getting screwed up. So I think you and I were talking about this right after. I thought Carl Urban played RoboCop. That wasn't the case. I was thinking of Judge Dredd, not RoboCop, and I was getting those two mixed up. Even though they're two totally separate, entities, and they're two totally different things. But, anyways,
I mean, what's funny about that though is when they were designing the suit, Judge Dredd, the comic book, was very much
influenced,
an influence in how they were designing the suit.
So it's funny how those two are similar in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was how this, how the Judge Dredd outfit kind of looked is kind of like what they were going for. But RoboCop in itself, I mean, it's a very tough movie to. It is a very tough movie to watch because when you're watching it, like the actor himself, Peter Weller does a very fantastic job with what he had to work with.
I mean, this was back in the 80s, but yeah.
For one, I mean, you're talking like the suit itself. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you this. The suit itself weighed somewhere between, and nobody knows this for sure, but the suit itself weighed somewhere between 25 to 80 pounds.
See, this just reminds me of the Godzilla thing that we were talking about a long time ago when they used to wear that was like 100 or so pounds of shit that they'd have to wear just in the costume itself.
And although they were able to break it down to an hour and a half to put it on.
Oh, God.
The very first few times that he had to put this thing on, it took 12 hours.
How the fuck do you sit there and put on a suit for 12 hours straight? Is it like individual pieces?
So I'll break it down. I'll break this down.
I understand, but that's just crazy to me.
I'm going to break this down.
All right, you break it down. It's crazy to me.
The actual RoboCop suit is actually 2 different pieces.
Oh, fuck. That just sounds
So
terrible.
there is a flexible one made from foam latex. This includes the jaw, the neck, the gloves, the abdomen, the pelvis, and the posterior. It's painted black like a cast iron.
Mm.
And then there's the semi or completely rigid pieces placed over the former, made from polyurethane. This is the chest, the limbs, and the feet. The moving sections, like the limbs, were joined with aluminum and ball bearings. And the entirety of the suit is supported by an internal harness of hooks, allowing for more action-heavy movements.
Wow.
So, I mean, you're talking foam latex, and it's not like, you know, the thin things like what are. You're talking probably like a good half inch. Like,
I mean, to me, Matt, that just sounds terrible. I mean, it just like I said, it reminds me of that whole Godzilla thing. Granted, I mean, this guy can breathe through the process.
They said that they basically would coat Peter Weller's hands with KY jelly so that it was dripping. Listen, it was dripping wet with KY jelly just to get the gloves on.
Oh my God!
Could you imagine foam latex gloves? Your hands are dripping with KY jelly, and then you have to shoot for God knows how long.
Oh, if it already took you 12 hours. On. Yeah, for 12 hours. 12 hours.
Not to mention like your abdomen, your from basically your legs all the way up to your abdomen, your neck, your jaw, all covered in foam latex.
Well, I'm just going to say it.
And then you have your chest, your limbs, your feet, all of that covered in a rigid piece of polyurethane. And then you also have to like, this is why when you're looking at RoboCop, like he has these weird rigid movements because he can't move.
I mean, who would? I mean, at that fucking point.
But this is where, you know, you have an actor like Peter Weller. And, you know, if you go to Prime and you watch this documentary, like he actually met with like one of the leading, like mime actors. I believe he's like from France or Italy or somewhere, you know.
Yeah. Like, you know, France.
But he's like a leading mime, like actor, teacher. And he actually taught, you know, Peter Weller initially how to like do certain movements. But then after like he got the suit, he was like, I don't know, like I think I might have to drop out of this movie. Like I can't do any of the things that you taught me what to do. So then, you know, this guy actually taught him like when you're moving with the suit, like you have to move with your chest first and then your head. You know, and he, you know, and you can see this in the movie, like he's doing exactly this. Like when he's moving, he moves the chest, and then like, you know, you can always see like the head. He does like these really like slow turns with the head, and then it snaps. And so that like that's what he, you know, when he's always turning, like it's these like really sharp, you know. And he, you know, he basically taught him how to move as RoboCop. And Peter Weller, throughout shooting, whenever he basically arrived on set, like people were pretty actually angry with him because when he arrived on set, that's how he would act, whether he was in the suit or not. If you walked up to him and you called him Peter, he would not respond to you.
Okay.
If you walked up to him and you called him Robo, like he would talk like Robo, he would move like Robo, and he basically would just do what he was supposed to do.
Well, he was always in the mindset because until he was done with the movie, then yeah, I could understand that. I mean, that's just.
But you know, obviously he was pretty damn frustrated just with the bulkiness of the suit because it was limited.
Well, I mean, the thing is no one else was doing that. It was only him. So why are you going to blame him for doing what he's trying to do? Like, that's just me. I mean, why would you blame him for committing to the part? You know what I mean?
It just, I'm, you know, I don't know.
I don't know either. It just seems asinine, but whatever.
the Auto 9 was also made from a different pistol. So, it was, I forgot the name of the pistol. But I believe it had the actual gun. I believe it had a 3-shot and a 6-shot, if I'm not mistaken. But when he pulled out the Auto 9, he almost had to wait until his aiming crosshair was targeting before he took a shot, so that there was a delay.
So I can tell you the pistol. I had to look this up. It was originally a heavily modified Beretta 93R machine pistol, which featured a long barrel, a large compensator / flash hider, plastic grips, and a taller rear sight to match the raised front sight. Okay.
Yeah, and they modified it. This is actually his Auto 9 is actually the way that they modified it. It's actually it was a real shooting gun. The way that they modified it.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that would be the gun that I'm showing you right now.
Yes. Yeah. And it basically, the way that it shoots is the way that it fires, like the fire that comes out of it when it shoots.
Yeah.
It comes out like on both sides on the top. I believe is the way that or the bottom. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
That's the way that it showed when they were firing it. But the thing with with the aiming and some of the things that they did, which I thought was kind of cool, and they did this a lot with the 80s. Like we talked about it with Star Wars, with the matte paintings and the things that they drew on screen.
I'm going to assume they couldn't do it with him particularly. With
this movie, like all of the things that because obviously with RoboCop, there's a lot of POV shots because you're seeing from his perspective when he's pulling up, his Auto 9 and he's targeting, you're seeing like the crosshairs targeting people. They drew that.
Well, that's a pretty damn good drawing, from my opinion.
Well, I mean, they used obviously they're using a tool that lays it on the screen. But for every shot that he's doing it, like they're drawing that for every scene. They have to take like the actual shot, like lay these like masks over each person that's in the shot, so that it like lines up with each person.
I just didn't think that was drawn, though.
Yeah, they actually have to draw it on each frame that they're doing it. So like when the thing is like, when you're seeing like the crosshair and it's going down and then it goes up to the next person and you're doing it for 3 people, like you're drawing that that thing going like that. Like it's pretty intense stuff for like the 80s, like what they're doing, because you're thinking 87, they're not using computer.
No, they're not doing what
graphics.
They're doing now. No.
You're literally drawing that for every frame.
I mean, that's still, for that time, that's pretty damn impressive. I mean, somebody taking the time to do that.
Even the text on the screen, RoboCop had a certain view that looked like, when your VCR goes on the fritz and you have like the double lines.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
See, hold on, Matt. See, I do know what you're talking about, because it's not like I'm not, I never said I was that young, but I do understand. Yes.
But that was his view, and that's exactly what they did. They actually took, like, they took a frame, moved one down, and they took another frame, moved it up, and that was his view.
Still?
And it was perfect.
So hold on, before we go any further. If you don't know what a VCR is, I'm going to say this right now. Yes, you are too damn young. But I will say this. You're really not missing much from it. But I will say that if you want to look it up, go look it up yourself. We're not going to take the time to explain it. But yes, no. It's just
talking about VCRs. Actually,
oh boy,
that's how most of his movements. That's where the sound of his movements come from.
What, from VCR?
From VCRs.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you know? Well, fine. You want to talk about random facts real quick? Did you know that originally, when they were designing the Auto 9, they were going to use a Desert Eagle, but they said
I didn't know that.
Oh, you did know that? Okay, because it said it did not work with the RoboCop suit.
No, because he couldn't. His fingers couldn't fit into the trigger guard, and the Beretta 93R had a like a longer trigger guard so that his finger could fit inside. And that particular Beretta 93 that he uses in the movie was one of the. I don't know if it was like an effects guy or it was one of the production guys. He had it in his truck. And he's like,
Are you serious?
He's like, I'm from Texas. We all have guns in our truck.
Yeah, but a Beretta though, that particular style though. I mean, I was surprised that he had.
I think that's why they used it, because he was like, I have a perfect gun that has a trigger guard that his finger will fit in.
But it's funny how when you see it now, like when you're modifying that gun, that I mean, imagine the guy who owned this gun right now. Right, I mean, imagine if he still owned it, be like, "Hey, did you know that I have the original gun from RoboCop because I was the guy that said all this?"
Yeah.
Imagine how much money that would be.
Oh,
I mean, granted, it's a prop, but I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be worth like millions of dollars, but I mean, it could be worth a pretty penny for the right person.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, just saying. And then, sounds like we're gonna go into some prime directives. Like some of these things that
Yeah, so these are OCPs, prime directives, and I think out of all of these, I mean, obviously, Directive 4 was one that was classified until almost the very end of the movie, but I think it was the first one that Peter Weller was kind of like during the filming of the movie, he was like, serve the public trust. He's like, I don't quite agree with that one. And then I think as time went on, I think he was like, okay, like I get that one now. Like I agree with that one now.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I jumped ahead to Directive 4. I was like, okay, I see how we're going to play this. We're going to make sure that real quick, we're going to make sure that everybody else, besides these people are, yeah. But anyways, I know we'll get to that in a second.
But yeah, so he was set up with basically 3 prime directives, and then one was classified.
Well, I mean, he knew about it.
We didn't know about it until the very end,
right?
Because it was classified. It was secret. We didn't know.
Needed to.
We know that there was a 4th. We just in the movie we didn't know about it. But the very first directive is serving the public trust. So this one is it's his moral directive, and it establishes him as a civil servant who assumes a subservient contract of the public's trust and is considered like public property. So he's basically, it's a moral directive that is basically saying like you're a civil servant as a police officer.
Right. And you need to serve as such, which,
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you need to serve the public's trust. Like you need to have the public's trust as the civil servant.
Fair enough. And I mean, even the second one, being able to protect the innocent. I mean, that's just any, I would say, public servant of the nature, right? That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be protecting the innocent, or hopefully what you think is the innocent, because...
All right. And that's the ethical, like it says, I mean, that's the ethical directive. Like that's the one where you're going to be exercising reverence for life, de-escalation, your duty to intercede when it's necessary, your duty to rescue, using non-lethality, and then presuming innocence of,
at all times.
At all times, yeah.
Which I know can be tough, because that doesn't matter whether it's this movie or even real life. I mean, you can say that everyone's innocent until, again, proven guilty, but watching the series, which does kind of delve a little bit more into, crimes and other things, most of the time, like, he is doing non-lethal, when he's shooting or he's doing other things. Like, it is cool in the series because he actually does use more than the Auto 9 in the show. Like, there are other things that he does, but when he's actually shooting, like there was a scene where, OCP deputized these, like, they're kind of like this gang of kids, but they were like, trying to get rid of like these drugs that were, running throughout Detroit.
But
I just find it funny that they're deputizing kids now.
well, they deputize like this group of like vigilante kids,
Okay.
because they were like they're on the streets already, like they can help us, even though they were running the drugs to begin with. But RoboCop kind of goes in there and like they're all holding up like sledgehammers. He like literally takes the Auto 9 and like shoots off all of the sledgehammer tops. But that's exactly like what we're talking about. Like he could have shot them all, and said like you're trying to, you're trying to hurt me.
I mean, I guess in the sense of like if you're looking at that, I mean, it's also kind of the humor part of the show, right? Like because you're trying to make it serious, but also kind of funny at the same time. Where you're like, hey, okay, knock it off. Let me take care of this. Don't worry about this.
Yeah, he literally shot off all the sledgehammer tops, and then they just got, they
like, all right, I'm leaving. But I get what you're saying. And then the third one, right, upholding the law, right, is the legal directive programmed, and then it establishes RoboCop as a law enforcement officer with the power to arrest, or the power of arrest, the legitimized use of force, and the obligation to protect and serve as required by law. Which, I mean, well, again, that's just, I would say, that's just a standard kind of police officer procedure right there.
I mean, that's what makes them,
right,
RoboCop,
and
not a robo person.
Well, you don't have to be a jackass, but
robo citizen.
Do you want to be a robo jackass? I mean, no. He's like, fuck you, I guess. No, I'm just. Well,
the difference between a RoboCop and a robo citizen,
No, I know what you mean. What you didn't want to, you didn't want to come at me, bro? Huh? Nothing. No words. Now you're trying to be peaceful.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I love how I called you a jackass, and you're just. Not even okay. Go fuck yourself then. Just nothing.
I got nothing.
Wow. Okay, fine. And then of course this fourth directive, which
that one was the classified one, and we don't know that until later on because we find out that basically throughout the movie, if you guys haven't seen it, the movie came out in 87. Come on, like you guys just have to get a life and watch it already. Like,
okay, so basically what Matt's saying is go fuck yourself, go get a life and start watching it.
Well, the movie came out in 87. It's 2025.
Well, I understand. Yes, it's called. It's not spoilers alert are done.
It's not like the movie came out in 2024 and we're finally revealing. Like the movie came out in 87. Like,
go watch it.
Yeah. But basically, OCP initially, Dick Jones, who is kind of like their head of, the military side. He was the head of the Ed 209 project, who was really, really angry with
RoboCop,
the RoboCop program, because it kind of took over his program.
Of course.
He was working with Clarence Boddicker. And when RoboCop was made, a fourth directive was put in that was later revealed to be any attempt to arrest a senior OCP employee results in immediate shutdown.
Right. So that's why I was like,
So it's not just arrest, but it's also any attempt to injure or arrest a senior OCP.
Yeah, this is their fail switch, right? This is like the ultimate, like, okay, go ahead, try it. Guess what? We already found something.
So yeah, he can't like injure or arrest like a senior OCP official.
And see, that's where this is where I'm hoping that within the later side of the film where you get to see somebody at least arresting them, like not him particularly, but someone else doing that for him.
Well, it happens because the actual chairman or CEO of OCP, when he's like he marches in like at the end of towards the end of the movie, and he's like they're having their board meeting, and he marches in, he doesn't have the visor on, like it's just half face RoboCop, he comes in and he's explaining like what's happening. He has this like data spike that comes out of his fist. So he's able to record all of the interactions that he has.
So no matter what, whether they want to tell him either way.
So yes, even if you you have an interaction and you're spilling the beans, it doesn't matter. Well, it's already recorded. So basically, that's exactly what he does. He marches right into that boardroom and takes a data spike and he plays it on all the TVs, and it's like Dick Jones' face right on all the screens. And the chairman, that CEO of OCP basically says to him that he's fired, and Directive 4 just goes and basically fades away because now he's fired.
Oh, it's because
And,
of Dick Jones.
Gotcha. Dick Jones pulls out the same gun that earlier board member was using, and tries to take somebody hostage, and doesn't end well
because RoboCop saves the day and kills that.
It also doesn't look well when he's falling out the window.
When RoboCop throws him, basically, right?
Well, he shoots him, but he ends up falling out the window. But in the movie, they don't. That was one of the things that they didn't have enough money to do effectively. So what they did was they made this like claymation thing.
Fucking course they did.
I mean, all of the Ed 209 scenes.
Yeah,
they did like what they did with Star Wars. It was all the claymation type movements.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But they actually made a clay version
of Dick
Jones, and that's what they're showing falling. But if you watch the movie, which I'm hoping you will.
Well, now I feel like I have to because he told me to get a life. But yeah.
But when you watch him falling, his arms are way too long. So I just
feel like I got to watch this one scene then.
It looks really ridiculous because like it's so like unrealistic because the arms are so long, and it's just, you can tell like it's not real looking, but it's crazy. But basically, the fourth directive, like it must not conflict with the first, second, or third. If there is conflict, then the fourth directive overrides all directives. And the directive, that's the picture of it. Yeah,
yeah, that is.
So if there is a conflict, then the fourth directive overrides all the other previous directives, and the directive renders him physically incapable of arresting any senior OCP official. So that's basically like what ends up happening is he gets fired, and then
basically gets killed.
It basically gets killed, and then the chairman, CEO of OCP is basically goes, what's your name, officer? And he turns around and Murphy, and then kind of walks away, and
All right then.
Do 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 do.
Do do.
So we'll go into the
movies.
The movies.
Just talking about the movie
RoboCop from '87. Peter Weller.
So look, let me guess this. So Peter Weller twice, but then the third movie they're like, "Fuck that guy."
No, I think he wasn't able to because he was already doing another movie at the time.
Or just maybe he didn't want to put on that stupid shit that he was putting on the last.
No, I literally think he was doing another movie at the time.
Okay. All right.
So RoboCop 2, I thought was good. It wasn't great. I thought it was just good. I mean, the acting was pretty terrible. I don't think it had as many of the, like satire type scenes that the first one did. It definitely had them in there, but I don't think it had as many. RoboCop 3, obviously for me, is like the worst of the three. It didn't have the same consistency. Obviously, like RoboCop is a completely different person, so like obviously you like lose some of the like nostalgia of having Peter Weller.
So I can tell you a few. Yes, it was due to the fact that he was filming another film, which was Naked Lunch, which
I've
never seen that either. But no, apparently
you don't eat lunch naked.
I just whatever But apparently it was Weller's choice to honor his commitment to Naked Lunch, and thus he did not reprise his role. And then, of course, it was replaced by Robert John Burke. And I guess something to do with production rushed. It said something about Orion Pictures, the studio behind RoboCop 3, was reportedly in financial trouble and rushed production, leading to a conflict with Weller's schedule. So basically, you don't wonder why it fucking failed.
Well, I mean, part of it too was they also kind of recognized that RoboCop's fan base was like primarily younger children. And, Orion Pictures had cut down the graphic violence. That was kind of like the defining characteristic of what made RoboCop like popular in the first two films. So, you have a movie that, one, you don't have Peter Weller, and then two, you cut down what made the movie popular.
Well, then, so here's the thing about, like I said, when you get a franchise like this, I mean, we've all agreed that there are very few franchises that actually allow, or let me rephrase this, that actually their first movie was not as great as, like, let's say the second or third movie, right? So, like, you and I both know that, there are certain films that, yes, their second movie might be better than the actual film than the first time. I would say, like, in this trilogy here, I mean, granted, yeah, we see that RoboCop 3 probably isn't the greatest of all time, but at the same time, how many films have we watched, you and I, like, just kind of collectively here, that you rarely see a second or third film being better than the original film? You know what I mean? Like, or having that fan base.
It's not often,
and it's very rare.
It's very, very rare,
and it's very rare you'll see that. But I mean, RoboCop, I just feel like, yes, the 87, 90, sure, that's fine. No
yeah, I mean, and I don't know if RoboCop 2 had the same director or if it had a different director, and that could be very well the case too, because I think Verhoeven, I think, was the guy's name.
You got me, man.
The director that did RoboCop in 87, that was his first American movie. He had never made like a movie that was like RoboCop before. I don't think he ever made like an action movie. Like, that wasn't his thing.
Yes, his name was Paul Verhoeven. Verhoeven.
Yeah, so he had never made a movie.
Well, he is a Dutch filmmaker. That makes sense.
Yeah, so yeah, he had never made a movie like in America like RoboCop before.
I mean, shit, I didn't realize he made Starship Troopers as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah, apparently he did, because I just saw that he Total Recall.
And that makes sense too.
I mean, let's see. He did, I don't even know what the fuck half this shit is. You got Turkish Delight, Flesh and Blood, Soldier of Orange.
Turkish Delight sounds like a sex thing.
I mean, it basically is. Total Recall's Showgirls.
Showgirls.
Basic Instinct.
Whoa.
Yeah, Benedetta.
Benedetta.
Look, I kid you not. There's a film. Ready? I'm going to show you. Benedetta.
Whatever.
Benedetta. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, he never made a movie he never made a movie in America before, like RoboCop before that movie. All of the movies before that were, I don't want to say like documentary style, but they were different. They weren't action movies like RoboCop. So when he came in to do the movie, it was very, very different in the way that he, had a vision, and he stuck to it no matter what people were telling him.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out exactly what he wanted. And I think that's what made it iconic. I think if you gave it to any other director, RoboCop wouldn't be, I think, the character or what it is today. That's why I think it's an iconic movie. I don't know if like RoboCop 2 like lived up to that same.
This is what I'm gonna say, man. Right. So I know we've talked about a lot of like cult classics and iconicness and everything else. I'm not saying RoboCop doesn't have that same level of cult classic following, right? Because, when we've talked about Mortal Kombat, we've talked about, you know what? I'm not even going to mention all the others because I cannot remember every single one we've talked about.
I think you're crazy if you're not putting RoboCop in that.
I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying I don't think it's, and this is just me. Yep, I'm going to say it. I don't think it's on that same level as some of the other ones we've ever talked about.
I think you're crazy.
Okay, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that I'm crazy.
I think you're crazy.
How am I crazy? How am I crazy?
I think you're crazy that you don't think RoboCop from '87 is a cult classic movie.
Okay, one. Right, because here's the problem. You have the second one and the third one. Okay, and you've even admitted
that doesn't matter to me.
No, hold on. Time out. No, see, I'm talking about as a collective.
But that doesn't matter to me.
Well, I would assume that would matter because you need to have if you have a cult following, you'd want to have like all of them be.
But you could say Willy Wonka is a cult classic movie, and that only has one movie. Rocky Horror Picture Show has one movie.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about those. I didn't even mention them. You decided to mention.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying in the level of this.
If you took RoboCop '87 and just that one movie alone.
Okay, that one movie alone. So you're saying it's better than every other ones that we've ever talked about?
I'm not saying it's better.
Well,
I'm saying it's...
And you're saying it's on that cult level classic?
I'm saying it's on that cult level classic iconic status.
Okay. So why is it that when you look at the new RoboCop version of it...
Because that one sucks.
Well, no shit, it sucks. because they think, hey, let's reboot a fucking movie.
And I'll break it down in what I like and what I don't like.
About the new one.
How about that one?
The new one?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
One, this movie is a remake. It's Joel Kinnaman as RoboCop.
Okay.
And I'll start with what I like.
Okay.
Because I'll start with positive things.
Okay, good.
I want to be positive, John.
Okay, let's see. How many positives versus the negatives do you have here?
Well, I have 3 positives.
Okay, how many negatives do you have at the end of that list?
Well, I think I have. I think I have 4, but
okay.
I think the negatives far outweigh the positives. Anyways.
Okay, all right, but go ahead, go to the positives.
I did like the sleeker look of RoboCop, but there is a but.
Okay, of course there's a but. So really, there's like 2 maybe good ones here.
I did like the sleeker look of RoboCop in this newer movie.
Yep. Okay, where's the but?
Because I did like the fact that he was much more like agile, faster. He looked better moving than the original 1987 version.
So, he's more sleeker. He's yep.
The suit though had a lot more to go to look better.
Okay.
You know, the sound profile from the original movie is so like iconic.
Okay.
Like with the thud of him, like with every step.
Okay.
You know, it was a stupid ass VCR every time he moved his head. Like it was like the different like sounds from the servos inside of a VCR was every time like he moved his arms, his legs. It was a different sound though.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like every time he moved his head, his neck, it was a different sound. That's what was missing from this movie.
Okay.
Was you didn't get those sounds. It didn't make you believe that he was heavy. And that's what you got from that original movie was the thud from that original movie made you believe that he was like a heavy machine.
Okay.
And the suit just was very generic. Like it was just black.
Okay.
It lacked a special look. The 1987 suit, I mean, you had in different lighting, like you could see many different colors. I mean, there were parts of the suit that like glimmered purple, like right on the arm, the back of the head. It just lacked a special look.
Okay.
Joel Kinnaman played Alex Murphy in the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did an all right job. I think he did good. Not great.
Okay.
But I think it's just the way it was written. I don't think the story was tragic enough. You look at the 1987 movie, you meet him for literally probably a good 20 minutes, maybe in that first movie.
Okay. And then yes, you only get to see him for 5 seconds or 5 minutes.
And literally within that first movie, like they're teasing the crap out of him. They shoot his hand off. They're blowing him away with shotguns, Uzis, and not in a fun way. You know what I mean? Like you're seeing every bullet go into him.
Okay.
In the new movie, he gets blown up.
So literally like a frag grenade or something like that.
I think it was just a car bomb. Like he goes and opens the door and just boom.
Okay.
To me, like you could say, well, that's pretty tragic. Not as tragic as getting basically like your hand shot off, your arm falls off, and your insides are now your outsides, and then you get shot in your head.
Well, this guy's getting lit up from all directions with all kinds of different weapons, everything else in between, versus literally, I'm going to open the door, boom, and you just basically explode. Right. I get what you're saying.
What they should have done was like, basically in the movie, like they go after basically this crime boss, but they don't get their man.
Okay.
And basically what this crime boss does is he goes after, basically he's trying to go after him and his family.
Okay.
And what he ends up doing is he puts the bomb in the car. Mm-hmm. And, Alex is basically like, I got to go out to the car to get this thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So he goes out to the car, and when he goes out there, the bomb goes off. Right. What should have happened is him getting kidnapped, tortured, and then killed by the crime boss. That is what should have happened, because that would have been more tragic.
Fair enough.
That's not what have happened.
Of course not.
And then, him fighting the Ed 209s in the movie was a good scene. I'm not gonna lie. It was a better scene than, just seeing RoboCop like clunky jumping on, whatever.
So I'm just gonna say this. So far, I've only heard maybe like a here and there positive, and then you still did the but out of that whole thing. So I'm just saying.
There's a lot not to like though.
Again,
you know what I mean? It's what I say very in bold up here is it's a lot like the Star Trek Kelvin timeline movies.
Right. Correct. Because
if you did not call if you called this movie Super Cop, fine. This was a great movie. If you call it RoboCop, it's not RoboCop. If you called it Super Cop, Super Cyborg Cop, sure. If you call it RoboCop, no. If you call it, like I said, if you call it anything else.
No, I get it.
But here's the thing. You change the lore, you change the story, you change basically everything that made RoboCop great. So it's not OmniCorp. It's in the movie, it's OmniCorp, not Omni Consumer Products.
Okay.
They revolutionized warfare by introducing robotic peacekeepers capable of maintaining law and order. Instead of focusing on military, the company moves to market its technology to domestic law enforcement. They changed OCP's whole storyline from manufacturing every consumer product and privatizing the entire Detroit Police Department, downgrading military robots into human cyborg hybrid policemen. So this is what the problem is. Like OCP was a mega corporation that made billions in revenue, creating basically every product. This is like what I'm saying. Umbrella Corp. This is what Umbrella Corp did.
Oh yeah.
They probably pushed other brands out of business, and then they took over the whole Detroit Police Department.
Which I find it interesting that they only took one police department over, not anyone else, but just that one.
Well, I think that was their start.
Okay. Well,
like it was kind of like their
guinea pig,
their experiment.
Yeah.
Not any other police department, not the military, just Detroit.
Like I said,
like OmniCorp had a military contract.
Right.
They downgraded to a police.
At that point, you should have just done to the military.
There's more money to be made in military tech, especially in robotic military drones.
Yep.
That could have the capability of replacing human soldiers.
Absolutely.
But no, let's do cops.
They thought, hey, stay at home, not go overseas.
My other thing is they played it way too safe. There was no rated R rating, which means like they stripped it of its gritty, over the top violence, any kind of action scenes, and that's what made RoboCop like great.
Well, we're also talking about, in this case, 2014 versus 1987, which that's a big part of this too, because the different generations of how you could do this. I'm not saying you shouldn't have made it rated R. And I'm not saying, because if they think about it like this, right? Imagine if, since I'm going to throw a random example, since we talked about this a little bit earlier, if Deadpool was rated as PG-13 or even PG, Not many people would be going seeing that movie because there would be
No.
no reason to see that movie because that is a rated R movie. That's what they did in the first two films. Because again, when Disney bought Fox and did all that shit, and they decided to make the third one, great. But if they changed that to fucking PG-13 or PG, nobody would have saw that fucking movie because it makes no sense. Now, granted, I don't know why somebody would see this movie, even though it's a PG-13 movie, even though it should have been a rated R movie, because literally for the last few films, they were always rated R.
So, I mean, you can take away a lot of what you can and can't see in the movie by making it PG-13. So violence, like you can depict violence, but with violence like that is realistic and extreme or persistent will require an R rating. So that's like, you can depict violence,
But you can't pick a certain amount.
but if it's realistic, extreme, or persistent, that will require an R rating.
Right. I mean, there's, again, so if you need to have that for a storyline, then you have it as rated R. Sorry, simple as that. But I get what you're saying. You know, they decided, no, we're not going to do that, but now you're limiting yourself
It
to
just,
certain things.
yeah, they played it way, way too safe, and you don't make it that rated R. There's a lot you can't do with a PG-13. I mean, violence is just the start of it. I mean, obviously you're not showing nudity because you're trying to basically do this for a younger audience.
Well,
and what they should have done was, you know, and I'm sorry for the younger audience out there, but fuck the younger audience. Nobody who is, you know, I'm sorry, but nobody who is 10 to 15 knows who the fuck RoboCop is.
did I not just say that depending on where you're at?
It's going to be your 30 to 50-year-olds who are going to be like, fucking RoboCop? Yeah, I'm going to see that. And then they watch this movie and they go, what the fuck RoboCop was that? Exactly what I said when I saw this. And I go, what the fuck is this?
Well, so my point to you is that this is why, you know, when you start to, and this is again, the problem with Hollywood, right? So when you have the nostalgic piece of like, hey, you know, we're going to take a reboot and we're going to try to make it like more mainstream modern day of today. It's very hard to capture that essence of what you did from way back when to then do it now, because
But the thing is, you don't have to copy 1987.
No, I'm not
exactly.
saying that. But what I mean, but how many times have you and I seen this where they do that and then they fuck it up royally because they go a completely different route?
Because you don't stick with the fucking
Blueprint. Hey, you know what, Matt? I think I'm done. You know what? We're gonna get on this fucking spring, summer. We're gonna make a fucking shirt that says stick with the blueprint or something.
You know, I'm
telling
telling
you.
I'm telling you right now, like writing a movie, not just writing the movie, but like when you're pitching these fucking ideas, it should not be this fucking hard.
No, you already have material. Like you already have, I'm not saying a script, but you at least have something to go off of.
If I worked in fucking Hollywood, I probably would have 37 movies made by now.
I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, that's kind of pushing it right now there, man. I mean, you're saying 37 movies.
I could tell you right now.
Okay, right now.
Maybe not right this second because I would have to break it down, and I don't think we have the time for that.
No, we probably don't. Not this one.
But I could tell you right now.
Okay, right now.
Exactly what RoboCop movie should be made right now.
Well,
And it ain't this shit right here that I'm looking at.
yeah, well, I mean, clearly, if you're gonna, so this is the problem with studios, as you and I both know. They'll make a movie, and if it doesn't do so well, they'll just go, "Phew, we're just gonna put it in this giant vault that we'll never talk about ever again because we'll pretend like it never existed." How many times have you seen that where they do that and they'll just be like, we don't actually count this movie. We just let's just make believe. Don't worry about that one.
No,
And
I think that there, you know, I was just telling Danielle this. Yeah, I think yesterday. There's only like a handful of like producers, actors, and maybe some directors out there that actually stand up for the stuff that's being made. Everybody else is like an ass kissing piece of shit, and if you like flash money in their face, they'll be like, yeah, I'll make that piece of shit movie, whatever
Whatever you want. I mean, so think about it like this. I must say it. another iconic cult classic movie, right? So when you're looking at, and it's kind of like a prime example, right? So when you're looking at Ghostbusters, right? And how, iconic those films were. And then they decided, hey, we're going to continue the story. But now I'm not going to, at first, I'm only mentioning this because, you're looking at those films and you're like, wow. Like at first, I'm not going to lie, I was a little skeptical because I didn't know where they were heading at first when I was watching like the newer films. Then it started to kind of make sense. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I guess if I'm watching it now, sure. I can see where they're going. I can be like, all right, that's fine. And it's fun. It's a little whimsical, whatever. It's different. But they're not the same. But then when you also bring in, now I understand there are sometimes you can't bring in the original actor of the original films because unfortunately either they passed or something happened. But it's always iconic or cool where you can bring those characters back and be able to bring them into a newer film.
I mean, I do think mistakes were made, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, all right.
I'm not going there.
I understand. My point is I'm just saying something like that where you can at least be different, do a different, timeline, whatever you want to do, right? You make it yours and you make it great. Where I just feel like this one, even just listening to you and just kind of like hearing a little bit more about it, it's just like every other fucking film or TV show or anything we've ever talked about.
You changed everything. I mean, you even changed, what the whole point of OCP was.
Right. So then what's the fucking point of keeping it if you're not doing it?
You changed the whole idea behind OCP. They could care less about being this mega corporation. They're just in it to basically make military things.
Right.
Basically drones. And Michael Keaton's character, and this is kind of the last thing, he's not menacing at all. He's not greedy. He's not really like a violent dude.
I mean, he's played some really great villains, so I'm just surprised he couldn't have done it in this.
You look at Clarence Boddicker, you look at Dick Jones. I mean, those guys were greedy. They were violent. They were bad dudes. And you look at Michael Keaton, like, he's not on that level at all. And he should have been on that level. Maybe not Clarence Boddicker, but he should. He was the guy of Omnicorp. Like, he was the dude. You know what I mean? Like, he was the dude.
He was the dude.
So you would want to think, like, you were the one making the decisions. You were the one that was doing all of this. You were the villain of the movie. You should be the guy who is menacing, greedy, violent, like making all these decisions, but you're just some dude making bad choices.
And again,
Dick Jones was a bad fucking guy. Like, when he falls out that window, you're like,
good
thank fucking God.
Yeah. Even though he looks kind of stupid falling out of a window, but yes, no. Again, man, it's the same old story that we like to tell.
Yeah.
No one wants to learn. No one wants to listen. So maybe one day, maybe we'll get another one. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Pretty tragic.
I don't know. I'd hope for at least something new from RoboCop. I would hope maybe for like a TV show or something. But
at this point, probably a TV show.
I do think TV shows are kind of like the way of the future.
I would say now, because unless, movies, I mean, the way they're looking at it now, I mean, really, when you start to look at like all the streaming apps, I mean, at this point, like every, like major studio, so whether you look at like Paramount or you got Amazon, the MGM studios or stuff like that, or, you got your Netflix or, Hulu or Disney or whatever, right? So on and so forth. They're going to just make their own streaming apps. And if they just want to put a movie on, they're going to put a movie on. But
I mean, most of the RoboCop shit right now, I think is on Prime. So I don't know if like Amazon or MGM like owns
the rights to it. Yeah.
I know back in the day it was Orion, but I don't know who owns it now, but so
keep talking. I'll find out for you.
Basically just to kind of break down, and we'll end here. But some of the TV shows and the video games. So RoboCop had some TV shows back in the day. 88. I'm watching the series from 94. RoboCop Alpha Commando was in 98, which is when I graduated high school, by the way.
Yes, I know you did.
And RoboCop Prime Directives, which was in 01. And then some of the video games, there's actually a lot of video games. Some of these are older. They're like Game Boy and like NES, they're like really old games. But they had like the RoboCop 1, 2, and 3. There was a RoboCop versus Terminator, which is interesting. I believe there was actually a comic book.
I had no idea.
That was like RoboCop versus Terminator. Where they actually the RoboCop actually gets fixed by the Terminator, and actually has Terminator parts put inside of him, and gets put into the Skynet system. Isn't that interesting?
Interesting. And guess what?
And then RoboCop, the official game, which was the 2014 official game, and then in 2023, Rogue City, which I believe has a DLC coming out at some point.
Have you played this game?
No, I have not, because I just got the PS5.
Oh, I didn't realize that was one of the games that were on the PS5.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess
it's still like $60, so I probably won't get it for a while, but
until it like goes on like PlayStation Plus or something like that, if it goes randomly on there. So, fun fact, yes, Amazon MGM Studios currently owns the rights to RoboCop franchise. It says having inherited them when Amazon acquired MGM in 2022. So far, it says Amazon Studios is actively developing projects based on MGM's library, including a RoboCop TV series.
I like it.
So apparently,
I do have to say too, just to kind of end on this note, RoboCop, like that original movie, was like kind of the king of one-liners. Like there's so many one-liner kind of like just lines in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to watch it, just you'll know exactly what I'm saying when you watch it.
Okay. Did you also know that RoboCop, when they had, apparently he had his own comic book series, and who do you think the publisher was?
I don't know.
Marvel Comics from 1990 to 1992.
Well, which is interesting because I know that they initially pitched it when they were making the movie. They initially pitched it to Stan Lee. And around the time when Terminator actually hit theaters, I believe he was saying something along the lines of better luck next time. Like that looks, basically the Terminator looks like a better shot at, being a better comic.
Well, so yes, and then what's interesting is Dark Horse Comics apparently did acquire them at one point, and they did some sort of, it was like released a 4-issue miniseries with RoboCop versus the Terminator.
Yes.
So yes, they did do that for like a 4-issue or whatever, which is okay. That's interesting. I had no idea. But anyways, no, I mean, look, I guess at the end of the day, okay, I won't shit on it too much. Okay. I guess I'll have to watch the movie to understand and realize what, the hype is. Again, I'm just saying it just sounded like to me that it was not on the same iconic level as some of the other ones. That's all I was saying. You, on the other hand, were like, you better take that fucking back. I'm going to beat the shit out of you kind of deal. I'm like, all right, then.
I completely disagree. I think RoboCop is right up there. I think the original movie, I would not say RoboCop 2 or 3 is iconic. Okay. But I would say 87 is on that iconic level.
Okay.
Just like I would not say, I would say Batman with Michael Keaton is on the iconic level, but I would not say anything beyond that one.
See, I had a strange feeling where you were going to go with that. Yes, I was going to say yes. Anything George Clooney related? No, absolutely not. That was trash.
Maybe the second one with Michael Keaton.
Oh, you're talking about the 89 and then right after?
Yeah.
And then
whatever one has well,
just don't say Val Kilmer.
The penguin.
Yeah, that was Keaton. That should have been, I think, the first one in the 89, I thought.
No, that one was with the Joker.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I think the second one was...
All right. Yeah. You're right. Yes, the Val Kilmer, George Clooney, get them out of there. I'm not going to go any further than that. But anyways, I know, look, either way you look at it, I guess, like I said, I'll bite my tongue. I will watch it. I'll give it a shot. I'll watch the first one. Okay. If I like it enough where I can be like, okay, maybe I'll watch the second 2, 3, whatever. Sure. If I at least watch the first one, then you can't say shit to me. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. Right?
Right.
All
But
right.
you have to look deeper than just
All right,
what
all
you're
right.
seeing with your eyeballs. You have to like look deeper into the character and
All right. I'll have to, again, I have to give it a shot. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot.
all right.
Which means you got to start watching other things. But anyways, I'm not going to go there right now. He's like, I don't want to watch Harry Potter. I don't want to watch fucking Pokemon. Fuck that shit. Well, at some point you might have to, whether you like it or not. Anyways,
We'll see.
oh no, don't give me that shit. Don't give me that crap. Anyways, boys and girls, we've had a good time. Next week we're going to be talking about. Actually, yes, we're going to be talking about Matt's book that we're going to be diving into and talking about all that fun stuff. But until that time again.
Stay geeky, 'cause we're geeks from the multiverse.